was salmon.
No fish for me.
Oh, maybe I ate it all. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything. It was delicious. No. I haven't opened mine either. We're live. All right. Let's give it a few awkward seconds for Councillor Wilson. I got 5:30. I'm Apple time. We will officially call this meeting to order. Regular council meeting of October 11th, just today. Good afternoon, everyone. First order of business is always our agenda. Looking for a motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Nagel.
I move that we adopt the agenda.
Thank you, sir. All those in favor of the agenda as presented? Carried unanimously. And on to our minutes. In standard fashion, Councillor Flowers, I'm looking in your direction. I see, oh, there's your light.
I move to accept the minutes at the last council meeting.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. All those in favor of the minutes? That carries. That work out of the way. We do not have delegations tonight. We don't have any bylaws, but we do have business. First order of business, Rocky View Foundation letter of commitment. Ms. Lowe, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. As council may be aware, the Rocky View Foundation submitted a letter to the town of Cochrane earlier this year requesting a formal letter of commitment with respect to their ability to facilitate fund development for the replacement of the existing Big Hill Lodge. While it's been consistently discussed that the land would be dedicated as part of the redevelopment of the 5th Avenue site, administration is recommending that council commit to land being dedicated without specifying the exact location, only insofar as to ensure that any of the recommendations and our work required to the 5th Avenue site, which could potentially preclude the need for a seniors lodge developing at the earliest convenience should the Rocky View Foundation be in a place that they wish to proceed. So it is not intended to suggest that that wouldn't be the location, just simply that we provide the letter without this specification so that they can begin their fund development.
Excellent. Happy to see this on our agenda. Councillor Flowers.
Thank you. I would like to make the recommended action that council provide a letter of commitment to Rocky View Foundation for land to be utilized for the construction of a new seniors lodge to replace the aging Big Hill Lodge. And I'm happy to see this on the agenda. We've talked about it for a long time, and it will help them to be able to start funding and show the provincial government that there is commitment to making this happen.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't see anyone else wishing to weigh in. I just want to echo your comments that it's good to see this on the agenda. I've had multiple connections from those in the community wishing to see the Big Hill Lodge be replaced sooner than later, of which I'm always having to reply that it's not entirely in our purview. It's a Rocky View Foundation asset that would be operated and built under that. But Councillor Flowers, maybe could you provide, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you're actually the chair of the Rocky View Foundation, and you've spoken to how this letter of commitment will help assist in getting in front of the province and seeing us fast track maybe, or at least get out of the way as the community for the Rocky View Foundation to move to the next step. What would be the next step? Is there, and I guess where I'm going is I'd like to see this happen in my lifetime. And if there's anything we can do to help, not with the understanding that it's not ours to build and believe facilitate, but how can we help the Rocky View Foundation get this in the ground sooner than later?
Sure. We do have a meeting set up with the deputy minister here in a couple of weeks. So we're anxious to have this letter in hand to be able to say that we have the commitment and hope that there's some funding left to get us started. There is rumors that there is some funding left that isn't occupied yet this year. So we're hoping to get our hands on some of it and start making plans. And we're finishing a big project over at Airdrie. So it's been taken priority, but we will be looking very close at the Big Hill Lodge in the very near future.
Okay, great. I don't have any questions in relation to the agenda item, but I just thought it was pertinent that we have that mini conversation about it. Thank you, Ms. Lowe, for your presentation. Don't see any other comments from council. Call the question. All those in favor? Carries. Thank you. Next order of business, Cochrane Crossing Civic Plaza Art Task Force appointments. Mr. Ham.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for having me. As a reminder, on June 27th, 2022, we created a task force to act as the selection and research committee for the art installments going in at the Cochrane Crossing Civic Plaza. As a part of the recommendation, we're recommending that Council appoint 4 public at large members to the Cochrane Crossing Civic Plaza Art Task Force. And we will also need to make a resolution for Council to appoint a member of Council to the committee tonight as well. We have conducted interviews and supplied recommendations, and it is Council may want to go in camera to have a discussion around the recommendations at this point.
Okay, any questions of Mr. Ham before Councillor Federico?
No questions. I was just going to suggest that council goes in camera to discuss the applications.
Okay, any questions before we take that motion? Councillor Flowers?
I'm just curious why only 4 recommendations when I think we had talked about 6 and there's so many great applications in the pile.
Thank you, Councillor Flowers. Through the chair, our recommendation is based on 4 because of the short length of this committee and the ability to act responsibly to the art pieces coming in.
Okay, I'm hoping there's some other way to get the rest involved because we got some amazing applications.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to go in camera. Any other questions? Don't see any. All those in favor of going in camera? Carries. Take a few minutes in the All right. Need a motion to come out of camera? Councillor Federico,
Motion that we come out of camera?
thank you. All those in favor? Ceremonial vote, that's awesome. We're out of camera. Not ceremonial, that's procedural. Feel ceremonial. Let's discuss, Councillor Flowers, you had a question around going from 4 to 6. I think we should decide what we're doing before we actually vote.
It would be to choose 6 people because we have such great community people wanting to get involved. It's hard to even narrow it down to that.
Okay, and our terms of reference reflect 6. Administration is recommending 4 for the reasons outlined in our agenda package. Council, anyone else? 4 to 6. Councillor Nagel?
I agree. 6 is good.
Okay. Councillor or Deputy Mayor? Yeah. Okay, everybody's agreeing we're gonna choose 6 members, so we have a blank list of all the candidates, so let's fill that out now. Mr. Ham, you're going to collect our secret ballot.
Thank you.
And I would suggest we probably take a 5-minute recess to allow some tabulation. There was, I think we had well over 20 applications, so we could have some iterations. So we'll take a, what was it? Let's come back at 5 after. Okay, we're just counting down to live. Moments away from broadcasting to the number of people watching. She's excellent. Okay, we're back. We have the results of the secret ballot, and council has voted for, and this is in no particular order, Lucy Boss, Barbara Greendale, Rochelle Lynn Zemlek, Dr. Karina Nancy Bauer, Patrick Price, and Wendy Forster to be on the Cochrane Crossing Civic Plaza Art Task Force. That is 6 individuals. So we need a motion, a resolution to appoint 6, the names that I just read out. Anyone? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. Yes, I would like to appoint the elected members to serve as the 6 public at large members to the Cochrane Crossing Civic Plaza Art Task Force.
Okay. Any discussion? Everyone's clear on the names? I'm going to hand them back to Mr. Ham, so it doesn't have to be right this second, but or it can be. Permission to approach the chair. Okay, I'm just teasing you, Mitch. Okay, so that's the names. They're official. No discussion. Call the question. All those in favor of the 6 individuals? That passes unanimously. Thank you, Council and Mr. Ham, for that. Seemed to be easier than I thought it was going to be. We also need a resolution to appoint a council member. Who on council is interested in serving on this task force? Councillor Padeco?
I am very busy too. Like, you really want it?
Councillor Nagel?
You can have it if you really want it. I would like it, but I'm busy too.
Mr. Ham, can you remind us our terms of reference is for 1 council member?
Through the chair, that is correct. 1 council member.
Okay.
To make a total task force of 7.
An odd number, yes, okay.
Councillor
Councillor
Diego will be
Pacheco.
my backup.
Your alternate? I think that's a great compromise position. Okay, so Councillor Padeco, you're putting your name forward?
Yep.
All right, would you like to make a motion to appoint yourself?
Here, I'll do it. That seems like more.
I appoint me? Deputy
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, I would like to, that council appoint Councillor Fideco and Councillor Nagel, I was just gonna call you Morgan, Councillor Nagel as the alternate to the Cochrane Crossing Civic Plaza Art Task Force, which is not an easy thing to say.
No. Okay, I don't see any discussion on that. Look forward to hearing some feedback on your progress and this exciting venture. Be interesting to see what the task force comes up with in the end. All right, call the question. All those in favor of Councillor Fideco and alternate is Councillor Nagel? Carried. Thank you, Mr. Ham.
Thank you.
All right, 6C. 4th Avenue Wall Enhancement Funding Request. Ms. Dela Cruz,
Thank you, Mayor.
it's
Ginoon.
officially evening. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. I'm very pleased to be here tonight as a follow-up on the October 3rd presentation on the proposed additional enhancements to the 4th Avenue retaining wall. In the Committee of the Whole meeting on October 3rd, administration presented a number of design options that could take advantage of this exciting opportunity for us to be able to use the 4th Avenue wall as a focal point that could create a unique, memorable, and gateway feature along Highway 1A and 4th Avenue through the addition of artistic elements and accent lighting. Administration provided the artist rendering during that presentation of this preferred option for Council's consideration. And based on identified guiding principles and design considerations, administration has identified this option as the one being able to best build on Cochrane's identity and Western heritage while minimizing issues with installation during construction and also reducing maintenance issues in the long term. So based on estimates from fabricators and installers, this artistic enhancement will cost about $250,000. And the reason why it's going to cost as much is because this is really a big wall. So if you recall, the bottom 2 to 3 meters of the wall is going to be actually cast in place, river rock kinds of texture. So it's going to be installed on site using molds and using machinery, but there's going to be some manual labor as well. And then we also wanted to make sure that the materials we're going to be using for the branding is going to be really good quality material, like stainless steel, for durability and also for the look of it being a more permanent enhancement to the wall as well. So this is how the preferred option is expected to look at night, with the accent lighting highlighting the design elements, and also to make sure the walls stay visible and attractive at night. Okay. So for tonight's presentation, administration is therefore seeking council's approval, also based on the feedback that we got on October 3rd. We're seeking council's approval for a $250,000 increase to the 4th Avenue retaining wall aesthetic enhancement capital project, and this funding is going to be funded from reserves. So that's it for my presentation, and I'm looking forward to council's feedback and additional questions.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Council, shouldn't be any surprise. We had a conversation about this October 3rd. Councillor Nagel?
Thanks for your presentation. I do have some questions and then I'll make a motion. In terms of timing, when do you need an answer from council on this? Because I know it's tied to a broader construction project, so obviously there's time considerations.
Right. So we're really pushing for council's endorsement of this recommendation as much as possible today, because what we want is to be able to start with the design, and we have to go make sure we're looking for appropriate materials that's going to be really appropriate and feasible in terms of attaching to the wall as well, right? So we want to make sure we really do our due diligence in making sure that we look for really cost-effective solutions for us to be able to achieve the outcomes we're looking for this particular initiative, Councillor Nico. So.
But outside of as soon as possible, is there any way we could buy a bit of time for a bit more conversation about this?
Yeah, if council really wants us to kind of like provide you more information or go through some additional process, we could certainly do that. We're just cautioning if the process is going to, let's say, elongate our process in terms of constructing the wall, if we're going to go delay that beyond 2023, the cost of actually finishing the wall is going to be beyond our control, and we don't really have a good understanding in terms of what's going to be the cost implication of finishing the wall if we do that after 2023.
Okay. Well, I would like to move option 3, which is not actually included in tonight's agenda, but option 3 would be that council direct administration to go to our newly formed art committee, or actually present council with information on how we can go to the newly formed art committee and get their recommendation on how we can handle this art project. That would be the motion. What I'm hoping to achieve with this motion is, firstly, I received very poor public feedback on this project, primarily on the financial component of it. I am really getting a sense from the community that there is a growing group of residents and people who are paying attention to our government who wants us to spend as little as possible on things that aren't necessary. I'm really hearing that a lot, and people like the idea of this wall, so I'm hearing, but they think that there's a better way to do it with less money, and if we're spending $250,000 on something, the message I'm hearing is spend it somewhere else. And then I think just the fact that we just created this other art group with really talented artists, I think there's really an opportunity to go to them and say, hey, what would you guys see us do with the current budget? The simplest thing that comes to mind for me would be a mural. We could not do the river rock along the bottom, or we could do the river rock along the bottom with a flat concrete up top, and that gives them a big canvas to put a mural together. But yeah, I'm not supporting the current sign, even though I really like it, but I would like us to see exploring other options like a mural with our art committee. I think that is clear. I'm interested in hearing what everybody thinks about it. Okay,
So motion to direct administration to come back with what it would look like if we tasked our, what do we call it? Cochrane Crossing Civic Plaza Art Task Force with this project?
Yes.
Okay, not to do it, but what it would look like to do it.
Yes.
Okay, just to be clear. So on that motion, Councillor Federico,
Can I ask another question? Kind of.
ask away.
I was just curious, is this going out to tender, or how did we ever come up with the $250,000 budget? And if does it go to an RFP? Like, is there a process of who's actually doing this work, or do we already have somebody decided in the background who's actually doing the work?
So yeah, good question, Councilor Federico. So the plan is, once council approve this recommendation, we are going to go down to the drawing board and then create a more specific design, and then send out a request for proposal for that. So because it's $250,000, actually quite substantial, it's beyond, in terms of our threshold. So we would go through a really limited scope request for proposal for us to be able to get the best contractor for this.
Gotcha. And on top of Councilor Nagel's motion, I don't disagree. I think that, we were kind of given somehow limited options as to what this could look like. It already came along with a price tag, and yes, the money's coming out of reserves, but we all know that eventually reserves run out and then it just becomes a taxpayer debt. So I do understand kind of where he's going with it. I guess I'd wait to hear what all the council kind of decides on the other end too. I'm open to listening to everyone about that.
All right, Deputy Mayor McFadden.
Thank you, Mayor Janan. So I just wanted to be clear. So the motion on the floor, the request tonight, is for a $250,000 increase to allow for the retaining wall art that council had looked at. But what's the total art budget for that piece? Is that it's actually $250,000 plus something, right?
So the entire $250,000 will include labor, materials, and project management. So that will include all of those different components. So the $250,000 will include, of course, the lighting, the branding, the barnwood pattern, and then the rock form pattern on the first 2 to 3 meters of the wall.
Okay, no, and I appreciate that. I think the initial budget did have a portion of art in there, right? But what we've discovered is that that wasn't enough. So
Yes,
we've increased it 250.
Correct.
That's correct?
Correct, yes.
So then what's the complete aesthetic enhancement portion of the budget? It's actually 250,000 plus.
Plus the
something else.
1.5 million.
So it's, okay, so we're actually looking at 1.75.
1.75, and I also want to highlight the 1.5 million is actually funded from grants, from grant monies, and so the entire 1.75 is not being funded through tax dollars, but through grant, plus the 250 is going to be funded from existing reserve monies.
Okay, and speaking and agreeing with Councilor Vago's point, like, when we say reserves, that's still taxpayer dollars that we received earlier. So it's always taxpayer dollars, even the grant. But thank you for the clarification. I do appreciate that the 1.5 isn't a grant that's already committed, so the 250 request is new to that.
That's right.
So I appreciate the clarification in that. I really like where Council Nagel is going with this. I think this is a great opportunity to really build up on our community empowerment and community engagement. We have so many talented artists and professional artists in the region, and so I'd like us, since we have a little bit of time, I don't want to draw this out, but to take a little bit of time and see if there's a way we can work with the community to come up with a Cochrane-made solution. This is really going to be an identifying feature of our community, but I think it's a great opportunity to engage our residents in coming up with something that really resonates and speaks from, the innovation and the art that we have in our town. So I support the motion. I'm not sure the art group that we just selected, we're going to be busy enough with the civic design. It might not be the right group to task with this, but I agree with the direction of let's find a way of engaging the community to set the direction, as opposed to where we were going before. So overall, I support where we're going.
Councillor Flowers.
I too agree that it would be good to have more information before we make this big decision. It sounds expensive, but if it saves a lot of maintenance, maybe it is a good deal, I don't know. But it would be nice to know if there was any cheaper options that would still be beautiful, and it is a huge wall, so it's not gonna be cheap no matter what we do, but I would like to just hear the opinions of the people on the art project and other things that they've done before, and if they had any other ideas before we really decide. So I do support the motion. Thank you.
Councillor Federico and Councillor Wilson.
I'm just curious if you want to put a date on it, just so that, again, it doesn't get drawn out or too far out, kind of to your point, that we're not delaying any projects or, you know, adding additional monies, but I don't know what that, I don't even know when the task force is meeting, so might be kind of early, but if we want to put a date on it.
If I could assist, my understanding of the motion at this point is that administration bring back a report about what it would look like for that additional consultation with the art task force. I would anticipate that you will see that report in front of you, if not before end of the month, the first meeting in November, just so that we can make sure that this gets facilitated in an orderly manner.
Okay, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. I'm hearing the same general public feedback as Councillor Nagel alluded to, and I generally support his motion. I just had a couple questions with some of the discussion here. Question one, 1.5 million, I do recall being funded from grants. Could you remind me which grant? Or was it a series of grants that the 1.5 came from, just to refresh my memory?
Right now, it's earmarked as an MSI grant.
Excellent, thank you. And my two other questions with, if we go down this route to hand it off to the art committee, the time question that was just asked by Councillor Federico, which would be, do we have time to do this, I suppose, within the construction schedule? And then also, it was already alluded to, but we have no idea what the cost ramifications would be if we miss this construction schedule and decide to do the exact same sign 6 months from now. Is that correct?
Correct.
Correct, okay. Okay, so in general, I would move with what the group's saying here too. I personally, I like the Cochrane sign. I think it looks good. But I feel like I'm not the right one to decide what should be on the wall, because I'm just one councillor that probably has really bad art taste. So perhaps a task force would be more appropriate here, although I do worry that we might be missing the construction schedule with it. So I guess my only caveat would be, can we advance this as quickly as possible with a new formed committee? And it sounds like possibly we can. So with that one caveat of me being worried about timing and additional costs involved, I support where we're going. I think this is the correct path.
Okay, before we come back to you, Councillor Nagel, got a couple questions. First off, just around the 1.5 million, the original budget. Had we not entered into a discussion on the additional $250,000, administration would be moving forward with some form of treatment on the wall, which we decided last year that we wanted to go above and beyond just a plain concrete wall that looked less inviting, but did the purpose. So we agreed to the 1.5. The 1.5 includes like a treatment, correct?
That's right, a smoother wall finish, Mayor. So because without the 1.5, it's going to be just a rough finish, and you cannot install anything on it because it won't have the structural substance to it,
Right.
for us to be able to attach anything to it.
So, and to put that into context, what people would generally understand, you're driving through an underpass in the city of Calgary and you see those designs, whether it be a mountain scene, a tree, I think on Glenmore Trail there's some fish. That's the type of pattern that this enhancement would allow.
That's right.
So that's the 1.5. The 250, well, part of the 1.5.
Part of 1.5,
The
right?
250,000 is to do the sign, which we talked about last week at our committee of the whole meeting, with the lighting, the barn board treatment, and the name Cochrane.
That's right. Plus
So-
any form line, sorry, Mayor, plus any additional form liner images, if you want to go put some fish or some curved lines, that's going to be included in the $250,000 additional aesthetic enhancement.
Right. So I guess the point I'm trying, well, before I try to make a point, the next question I have is about the process to the art task force that we've just created. That terms of reference laid out a defined amount, scope of work. What is the general, and maybe this is through to Ms. Lowe, what is the general timeline expectation of that group to form a committee, and not, I guess, getting into the specifics of what a report might look like, but if we look at that task force and the job that we've asked them to do, what was the turnaround on that?
So I think that would be part of what we would be needing to consider over the next week or so, probably 2 weeks. So it'll probably be that first meeting in November when I think about agenda report deadlines in order for those to get pulled together and sent out to council and the public. But that is definitely something that we would have to look at, and what the impacts to the project timeline would be as well. Pulling a committee together for the first meeting is usually one of the most difficult ones. At that point, administration doesn't really know what the availability is of committee members. The art task force is specific to the Cochrane Cochrane Plaza, pardon me. So it may be something that we need to consider whether or not there should be a formal resolution in addition to the one that you would be considering to amend that terms of reference.
Right. So I guess I thank you for the response. I guess the question is more, it's a timely undertaking. It's months to come back with a report back to council on what the art might look like at the Cochrane Crossing location. Not weeks.
I would suggest you probably would not see a report back or a recommendation back from that task force until probably the new year, considering where we are in October, and getting the committee together, making sure that the consultants and the information is available, having the committee have the time to actually review and give consideration, as well as potential costing. As you know, anytime you get interested individuals together, there will be the ideas that are presented, and then there will be more that they may want to pursue looking into. So I think if you're going to suggest referring this to a task force, then it's appropriate to give them enough time to do that in a meaningful way.
Yeah, and thank you for that. That's exactly the point I was trying to make, is that I think while I understand and I'm tracking with you on the request, and I agree that maybe asking for a report is the way to go, I think we're stalling on a decision that we somewhat have know the answer to. And I don't mean to suggest that we know the answer on behalf of all the community. And I tend to disagree with you, Councillor Wilson. I think you are more than just a lowly councillor. I think that you are elected by to represent the community, and that you understand some of what the community wants. And the fact that we all wholeheartedly gave our positive feedback to that sign last week, and I'm using the language sign on purpose because I don't feel this is an art project. I feel this is more of a sign, wayfinding. It's yes, it's significant and it has a legacy, piece to it. But I think that we already have that wherewithal as council to kind of guide this decision on this one. I'm willing to back off and not say that I know it all, because I don't want to make it sound like that. But I also am being cognizant of the timeline of the project. We agreed to this last year that we wanted to move ahead and do an enhancement. We're doing that. This is above and beyond that. So if this had just been a wavy pattern or a fish or a tree or a mountain like you see every day in Calgary, I think we would have made the decision within the budget and moved on. We're making it bigger than what I think it needs to be. And I think we're maybe, while we talk about raising the bar for our development industry, this is an opportunity for us to model that. Is it this sign? Perhaps not. And so I guess where I'm going is in the essence of the project moving along, giving assurance to the contractor and our administration to move along in a timely manner and actually save taxpayers money in the long run. Let's go back to the original project of just doing a plain wall and make a decision later on what separately on what the enhancement is. So I'm not in favor of asking a task force that they've signed up for something they don't know is gonna come and land on their plate. I think the timeline is gonna be too long to have meaningful engagement from community members. I think we're gonna get 100 different answers And it's gonna come down to us choosing what we think the right answer is, and there's gonna be people that are unhappy with that. And they're gonna be on social media, and we can choose to listen to them or not at that time. But I think we're just extending our decision-making process down the line than taking responsibility for it now in this moment. And I think that we should do that. So I'm not in favor of the motion on the floor. I think we've generated some other comments. Councillor Nagel, do you want to hold off on your? Go ahead.
No, I want to respond.
Yeah.
So like in terms of holding up the project, I was thinking what we could do is just build it with like the river rock and then plain concrete and just agree it's going to be a mural of some sort. And that would probably fit within budget. And then that doesn't need to hold up the whole project. We can come back and do the mural in the summer or the following summer. So I think there's a way to move forward with this without holding up the entire project. But really where I'm coming here from today is I came here after receiving feedback from people planning to vote against this. So I thought instead of voting against it, why not propose something else? Mm-hmm. So yeah. So if we're not moving forward with the art committee, I'm still voting against it, unfortunately. And I think it's important to raise the bar in Cochrane, but I also think it's important that when you know the community doesn't support something, we pivot. And with this one, I feel like I really know. Like I saw some feedback on Facebook today and very quickly had like a 95% response by a lot of people that they were not happy with it. So for me, when I know, and I know on this one.
Okay, I guess point of clarification on if we vote against anything tonight, what happens to the project?
If there is no clarity, Mayor Junong, in terms of what going to be the ultimate enhancement to the wall, we could just keep the wall in terms of how it is like right now, which is basically the structural face of it, and then wait until we have the decision and then do the enhancement then, right? Or we could also do what you're saying, basically we just continue with the enhancement of it using the 1.5 million. And then we could do the additional enhancement later on once we have enough engagement, let's say with the task force. But in terms of timing for that, of course, it's open to the process, right?
Okay. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, and I appreciate the point that this would be perhaps more seamless and more efficient if we just proceeded. But I was also hearing the feedback. But like I said, for me, this is a great chance to empower and engage the community in a meaningful way. So I think a short pause to get to come up with a strategy about how we can engage the community on this one better is really important to me. So I'm overall supportive of the direction. I might suggest if you just withdraw the art committee as the advisory group and just ask administration to kind of come up with a strategy for that public engagement piece. There might be a more appropriate group. I don't want to get hung up on the group, but just say, for me overall, this is something that's caught people's attention. Let's go back out to the public and get their feedback in a meaningful way, and then we can make the decision from there. So
sounds like a friendly amendment.
All right, so making a friendly amendment to withdraw the name of the task force for the solution.
Amendment agreed to, Councillor Nagel, accepted, okay. Everybody's clear on the new motion. Councillor Wilson?
I had a similar opinion after listening to the mayor's comments. There was wisdom there, particularly in my concern about stalling this. I think there will be consequences to stalling it if we decide to go with the same thing inevitably in the end. I don't know if it's inevitably, pardon me, if we do go with the same sign in the end. I was going to ask for something I've never asked for here, which is a 2-week pause where I don't feel like I have an answer I'm pleased with either way I vote right now. So perhaps the amended motion is exactly where we should go, which is give it at least 2 weeks to come up with, are we going to a task force about this, or at least administration to come back to say, should we create a task force, or what options might be ahead of us? And I feel like I'll have a much more solid opinion in 2 weeks. I don't normally do that, but I don't feel like I have it tonight. So I would agree with Councillor McFadden's amended motion.
And the motion is to ask administration for options and ramifications of delaying, waiting, doing option A, B, C, D, or E. Yeah. Mr. Heineman?
Just for council's benefit, I think based on the discussion, that is something that we could do, working within the existing budget of the 1.5 and explore options with the committee, as well as and then present those. So there is more information for council's consideration before making a final decision.
Without impacting the existing budget and timeline of the construction project?
Yes.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
We could do that.
Councillor Federico?
Yeah, that's where I'd like to go, is, I don't want to delay the project, and I agree, I don't want to hold it up, and then all of a sudden you find out it's going to cost X, Y, Z more, but I feel like if we can come to kind of that blank canvas, and then that discussion can occur, whether or not it's through a task force, public engagement, or council itself, I think we're not just looking at one or two options that we haven't really discussed even in the background ourselves, so it's kind of like a win-win all the way around for me.
Okay, all right.
Couldn't have
Thank
said it
you.
better. I think we're landing in a good place. It's not costing us anything. We don't have to make a decision tonight. We can get more information. We're not putting a date on it. It's going to be subject to the information being accurate and in a timely manner. We'll leave that with administration, but with the understanding in this calendar year-ish, right? I mean, I think we'll be outside of our window of impacting the budget of and the project, so. I just want.
I heard weeks-ish.
Yeah, weeks, not, yeah,
Immediate-ish.
yeah. Okay, I just want to be clear with the expectation, that's all. Okay, everyone understands the motion? Councillor Nagel, you accepted the friendly amendment? Okay. All those in favor of the motion? Okay, behind that. Thank you. That carries.
Thank you for the feedback,
Thank
Council.
you, Ms. Dela Cruz. Thank you, Council. Good discussion. Well, look at this, a mayor's report. Next on the agenda. Buckle up. I'm just kidding. Yeah, may want to grab a water if you're watching at home. The few things, just highlights coming through my office. Obviously, our UCP government had a leadership race that ended last week, and today a new premier for our province was sworn in. All that stuff aside, that obviously creates a workload for us. So I've started with our office and our intergovernmental relations and communications and everybody that's along the lines to reconnect with provincial leaders, I guess. It's felt like a bit of a pause here while they got their house in order. It's been hard to connect with anyone in a meaningful way around anything that we're really up to, as we don't know if those ministers are going to be there tomorrow or not. So a lot of that work has kind of paused just naturally. So when the new cabinet is announced, we'll be in full gear again, reestablishing connections with former provincial leaders and then probably some new ones too, by the sounds of things, including the premier. So that's letter writing, that's emails, it's phone calls, and it's just, I just wanted to voice, that we're actively engaged in that process. And I guess on those lines, the Mid-Sized City Mayors Group is meeting next week. We've reached out to the premier months ago, premier's office. So I'm waiting to see. I heard today that I thought, this is going to be weird to say, Premier Smith is going to be in attendance. I'm not sure, but that's the type of work and relationships that we're working on already. So, and that in-person meeting is next week. Continue talks with Alberta Transportation on the hopeful tendering of the project at 1A and 22. So those talks continue mainly administratively, but that work obviously as our project starts to come to a close there, or in the final months, we're hopeful obviously of passing that baton to Alberta Transportation and getting the 1A 22 underway. So that continues. You'll see a project update in the form of a video that we shot last week on the 1A project, and and you probably noticed over the weekend, and we had an update in your email inbox about traffic patterns changing and shifting, and as the construction crews there look to take advantage of the good weather and get as much done this year as they can on that. And right now it's affecting the 5th Avenue intersection, so I assume that we'll see. My inbox was kind of filling up over the weekend with people's frustrations. Again, we're on traffic. It's kind of nice to have the old complaints back. I just want to highlight the Alberta Munis Convention that I feels like months ago, it's a couple of weeks ago. One of the highlights there, I'm not sure if council was aware, but Mr. Derricott and myself were asked to be on a panel on one of the information sessions, and we spoke to a group on, the title was Council's Leadership Style and the Impact on Organizational Culture and Economic Environment of the Community. It was a well-attended information session. We had a big lineup afterwards talking about all the things that Cochrane's been doing and what we've been up to, and I just, it tweaked in me how we're trying to put Cochrane on the map, and that might actually be a venue that we should look into more often, is having speakers from our organization actively engaged in some of those. We have some great talent here, we have some great experience, and it was somewhat humbling to me to sit there and have other elected officials and administrators come up to us and like ask questions. What have you guys been doing? It looks like you got it going on in Cochrane, and we do. Often I'm focused on the next thing and the next initiative, or increasing efficiencies, or looking for ways we can improve ourselves, and often forgetting how great we are already. And I think it's that was for me a kind of an aha moment about, like, we do have it going on, and we do have a lot of stuff to be grateful and thankful for, and it's because of the hard work of this group and our administration team, and it's showing. There was a number of people that came up to me saying, I have a sister that works there in the community, not for the community, or lives in Cochrane, or I visited here, or my experience with the planning department or another department in the organization has always been positive. We're just with an unsolicited response from people, and it was good to be on the other end of that. So just want to make council aware of that. Talks continue and meetings continue around the Great Trail project. The Spray Lakes Family Sports Center finalized the budget. Well, that was during the convention, and has the budget to our administration, I believe, and that will form part of our budget in the fall here in coming weeks. I just wanted to make reference to an interim CEO that's in place. I'm not sure if we talked about it openly, but Blair Fileski left the organization, resigned, and that was August 1st, I believe, or 31st, one of those. It happened over the summer. Wish Blair all the best in his endeavors, in his life, and in the interim, there was, I'm gonna forget her name, Erin was appointed as an interim CEO until there's been a chance to really look and do a fulsome investigation on what a search would look like and all of those things. So that's to be determined. CMRB continues to meet. I've talked about that at length. Mid-sized cities I've mentioned already. The SETI workshop, maybe I'll leave that for another councillor. Mr. Derricott and I had a meeting with the new principal at Bow Valley High School, and just the only reason I bring that up is that I think there's an opportunity to interact more often with schools. We talk about civic literacy. I think there's an opportunity to engage. Obviously, grade sixes kind of reach out to us already, but understood through that new principal who moved here and targeted Cochrane as a place to want to live and work, that grade 9 also takes government, and maybe there's 2 interaction points with schools that we can maybe share our civic literacy with students to take home to parents. So the other topic I would talk about tonight a little bit is the Calgary Airport Banff Rail Project. There's been a new group called Friends of CABR. CABR is the acronym for Calgary Airport Banff Rail Project. It's the former CEO of Calgary Economic Development who's leading that. It's just a nonprofit who thinks it's a good idea for the region, and they think it would help the province hear from other people outside of the proponent and municipalities that are in agreement with the project. So they've been filling my inbox, and we've been having meetings back and forth just to see if there's a way to get this on the provincial radar again. And yeah, BGC 30th, I think someone will talk to. I laid a wreath at the cenotaph on behalf of the town for the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, I believe. Should know that. And the Monumental Tournament of Aces was a good success on one of the past weekends. Can't remember, they've all been a blur. So that's my general, what I've been up to over the last few weeks. Councillor Nagel, you have a question about my report?
No, I have my own report. Just wanted to fill everybody in on an interesting budget process over at the library board. The board met, put the budget together to put forward to the town. And the treasurer and the executive director brought forward a budget. It was like 84,000 or 88,000 for the year. And as part of that, there's a plan to get the library off of fines and late fees, which makes up like a $35,000 gap in the budget. So if they kept fines and late fees in, there'd be another $35,000 the library would have access to. In our discussion about that, I very strongly asserted to the board that the town has lots of financial pressures, and maybe it wouldn't be a very good year to do that. So in response to that discussion, like it was a pretty friendly conversation, but the way it went was kind of weird. The board then decided to finagle the budget to add like another $40,000 onto the budget as a negotiation tactic, so that if we were to cut the library board, suddenly it was a much higher number. So the number, I don't know the exact numbers off my hand. I should have wrote numbers, but the initial discussion started with 84 to 88,000, and then 25, 30 minutes later, a budget was approved that was like 120,000 or 115,000. And I felt that the conversation really went that direction simply as a negotiation tactic. So just something to keep in mind when we're reviewing budgets later this year. But yeah, interesting dynamic being a library board member and a councillor.
Well, thank you for that heads up. Look forward to that discussion in budget. Councillor Wilson?
Yeah, thank you. I have a committee update as well. The FCSS Advisory Board and myself, we're doing a fundraiser this upcoming Friday, October 14th, 3:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. just across the way from the FCSS building. It's barbecue and a little community event to try and raise some funds for the United Way and keep all dollars in Cochrane. And it's our first of what we hope is an annual thing that we can get going there. So if anybody's around on Friday from 3:30 to 7, please stop in by the FCSS building.
All right, noted.
We'll be cooking barbecue things, and come say hi, please. Oh, and there's raffles and all kinds of good stuff going on.
Awesome. Thank you. Councillor Federico?
I got to attend the Bow Rivers Edge Campground Society grant presentation, which was really great. It was really great to see that many different organizations get money, and especially some of them that, to be quite honest, I didn't even know existed in our community. So hopefully they are looking for a little bit more awareness next year as to their grant period, and so hopefully we can all share that information out and be able to help some small organizations. I also got to bring town greetings. This really wasn't a Cochrane Citizen Action Group for EMS, but they did have a really feel-good story about the fire hall baby from years ago. And it was fantastic to see old chiefs, new chiefs, old trucks, old ambulances, as well as some of our old volunteers. And so it was a real feel-good. There wasn't many dry eyes in that group after they were finished. And emergency services Share Your Christmas parades are going to be back on this fall or winter, I guess, in December. So we're going to do a fast, action-packed week of parades. Donations are really down. I think that they've had some success lately, refilling and restocking their shelves, but they did say that donations are down. So they're looking for whatever kind of support town can shout out to help bring Christmas to everybody here in Cochrane this year. And just wanted to say it's Small Business Week coming up in Cochrane, October 16th to the 22nd, and nothing better than supporting our local businesses. That we should all be out there and give a big shout out to all our entrepreneurs and businesses alike.
All right, good points. Thank you. Councillor Flowers?
I did want to mention the SETI workshop that the majority of us attended. There was a dinner and an all-day workshop, and much of administration came. It was a great learning experience. We were partially educated. We were creating relationships, and really looking forward to the next couple of years of working with the Stoney leaders and the community on different projects. And I also wanted to mention the Boys and Girls Club, now known as BGC, 30th anniversary. It turned out to be a wonderful day, and so many families came out and participated in many events, and just great to see that they've been around 30 years and hopefully 30 more.
I especially appreciated was it the friendship dance? I call it the friendship dance in my own head, yeah. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you very much. I was going to also give a shout out to the SETI workshop. I found that to be a really, valuable experience to meet and work with our Stony Nakota neighbors and their leadership, and to talk about kind of joint economic development opportunities, but mostly just to start to develop some relationships and have some really authentic conversations. So it was very valuable use of time. So just wanted to give a shout out to that one. And then, and I'm appreciating that we're getting updates on the committees. The Parks and Rec Committee, as council may be aware, is going through a stakeholder engagement process around pathway gaps in the community. We'd initially booked that engagement to have happened already this year, but instead we're just currently looking at a new date, I think in November. So once that gets firmed up, I'll let everybody know. But the intent there is we've targeted groups to come down and have like a really informed engagement with that. So work with that committee continues.
Great, thank you. I was wondering when that was going to happen again.
I'll update it into your schedule.
Okay, thank you for the reports. We do have one in-camera item or an in-camera item tonight. Need a motion to go in camera again. Councillor Flowers, all those in favor? That carries. I don't believe there would be a decision coming out of in camera, so likely no reason to hang around if you're hanging around at home.